apple rose thing is kind of a cool little dish. So you want to get the butter super cold. And what I mean by super cold, I had my sous vide going and I had it sitting in water that was about 30 degrees. And even then, as soon as you take it out, it's kind of melted. So then you just want to take a sharp knife and start to kind of cube it the best you can. So you're going to need a cup and a half, which is 2.5 sticks. Just kind of get it decently cubed. Now, you could substitute this part and just go get a thing of puff pastry instead of making the dough. So that is a substitute you could do. But if you don't, that works just as well. Okay. You want to add cold butter. You want to add some cubes in to a food processor or a blender. And here's the part that I'm so happy you muted Pat for, because I don't measure. So you want about 3/4 cups of butter. Or not butter, flour. And out of the 2 cups that you mixed up, that looks about right. So then you want to give it about 10 pulses. To start to kind of get it to fluff up. And then you just add some more butter in. Then you want about a 1/2 cup of really cold water. What you're doing now is you're kind of making the dough. And you can see it's starting to kind of combine. And you pull out your plate attachment wherever you want. You can see it's starting to look like dough. Now comes the part that's actually really messy. So if you're wearing rings or anything, this would be a good time to take that off. And you want to lay out some flour. You kind of just rest your hand. Yes. So then you just kind of start working flour in, and you want to kind of knead it. Another trick that I've learned, let me wash my hands to show you, is if you're doing any kind of kneading, this is for any kind of dough making you do, get a can of canola oil, whatever kind of spray you want, and just lather on up. You want to lube up your hands nice and good so nothing sticks to it. Oh, it's so nice having Pat muted.
I was just thinking the same thing.
So you want to kind of knead that together, because I saw that he laughed way too hard at that joke. Has anybody done pottery stuff before? No? Okay. So when you're kneading clay, you use one hand to keep it kind of neat, and you just kind of knead it like so. And that is how you make puff pastry. It's really simple, really quick. So D, if you want, While I'm cleaning up my mess, you can open up questions.
You're all unmuted.
So I'm not going to say a word about oiling up the hand thing.
Oh, good Lord, Pat. Why did we let him speak again?
Hey, I know what's coming up, Tim, and just to kind of prepare them for it, you're going to need a roller here in a minute.
Yes.
I don't have a roller. What could I use in place of a roller?
Well, you could use quite a bit of things. I use a rolling pin because I've got one. Something else you could use is a water bottle, works really well. Let's see.
That can of oil would work.
A can of oil would work really well.
Theoretically, you could use a wiener dog too.
You hear that, Albert? I need more dough.
I wasn't going to make that joke, but thanks, Eric.
Well, he's not a long hair anyway.
And yeah, I am not good at measuring things. So if I just do something and you want me to redo it or say what I'm doing, let me know.
We got a, lot, and I think Dee and everybody else who cooks will agree with this. You always have that recipe, but then you kind of flex it a little bit.
The first time I make a recipe, I follow it to the T. After that, no holds barred.
So I've got a lovely 5-pound rolling pin because I like a nice heavy rolling pin. Kind of just roll this, and you see how it's starting to kind of get sticky and stick to the rolling pin. It looks like if you start to do this and it starts sticking, what do you think that means? That means that it's not got enough flour in it because it takes quite a bit to knead it and get it where it needs to be. And D, I can get, this is just for D. I can get you the coffee recipe too.
Awesome.
Another thing you can do is always flour up your rolling stick to get it nice and that's better. Notice you can see there's chunks of butter still in this. That's okay. That just will make it more moist. Now that you kind of got this rolled out as kind of square as you can get it, this is where it comes the creative side. I'm gonna look for about something along strips that look like that. If you can get 3 strips, that works good. And then you can see how it'll slowly kind of peel up. That's okay. So now, and if you can scrape more of that out if you want. I just didn't. Now the whole point of what we're going to do with the apples is kind of make a sliver, like a half moon shape. So we're going to try to decore this the best you can. Monkey see, monkey don't do. That's probably not the best way to cut an apple. So we got that fairly decored. Doesn't look too bad. You're gonna do this for the other 2 apples as well. And good, nice, sharp knife is best for this. Okay, so now you're just gonna take and do really thin slices. Okay, so you're looking for a slice that looks about like that. And you're gonna just do this. I'm gonna go ahead and do this with the other one real quick. And you don't have to have it super fine on the slices. I mean, if you want to do different sizes, that's fine. It'll all have to be uniform. Shows uniqueness if it's not. And while you're doing this, go ahead and set the oven at 400 degrees Fahrenheit just to get it preheated and ready to rock. Alright, probably one more of this picture here. And I would choose red apples. It looks better for roses. But you can choose whatever apple you really want. Alright, so we've got our apple slices. If I need more, I'll chop up that last one. So now you're going to take a half a cup of butter, 1 stick, and melt that. It should take about 45 seconds, give or take. You could have used, I should have used the extra little bits of butter, but I didn't. I'll use that for something else. Again, non-stick, butter your pan. Cupcake pans work really well for this. Alright, now, when you're making this, you're going to be using cinnamon. However, for the next dish, we're using cayenne. Do not get these mixed up or you're going to have a lot of fun. And you could really hurt some people. So about 45 seconds or so. Now here's where the recipe kind of goes a little bit astray. You're gonna take your cinnamon. Apparently I don't have my cinnamon open. Again, some of the ways I do things you probably shouldn't follow. Okay. It says about a teaspoon or 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. Just eyeball that, that's about 2 teaspoons. Go ahead, add in some sugar. And here's where the recipe kind of goes astray. This is just a personal preference. You don't actually need to do this. I am a big fan of adding a little bit of brown sugar. Now, dark brown sugar, that is. Does anybody know what the difference between dark brown sugar and light brown sugar is? Dark brown sugar has more molasses. So you mix this up. The other thing you kind of want to do, go ahead. Get you out 1 egg. Crack your egg. Drop it in. Then kind of bust it, finish mixing it up. Now, I don't have a brush to brush this on, so I'm gonna use a spoon. You can use a brush if you got a brush. And just kind of act like you're painting this on. Try not to get too much on spill it, because it'll be a real pain to roll up if you do. And then you can always add more. Then take your apple slices and pick a side. And just go ahead. Actually, forgot one step. The next step before you do that is to heat up your apple slices. So just get you a plate. Put all your apple slices on a plate and give it about 30 seconds to the microwave. Okay, so now comes the assembly part. In about half. It's not half, but it'll work. And that's gonna be how many roses you're gonna make. Another thing is have a nice, if you got a knife that is fairly long, now is a good time to kind of go up underneath it, very ginger-like. And that'll get it, if there's anything stuck on the surface, you'll be able to kind of get it off. Now take your warmed up apple slices, because now they're a little bit more pliable. Go ahead, overlap them, and run them along your pieces. There you go. So, then you're going to take half of your thing and roll it over. So now comes the part that actually takes a little bit of delicacy. You're going to start rolling, and you want to make sure you're rolling the apple slices with it. It's okay if they crunch a little bit. Just keep rolling it. Oh, and that one just completely crumbled. That's okay. We're gonna have one that kind of crumbled. That's okay. Alright, let's try this one. This one will do better. The apple was a little softer. Because you want the apple nice and soft, so when you put them in, and they fan out, they look like a rose. So, now comes the boring part of watching me do the rest of this. So if you want to unmute people, they can ask questions while I'm doing this.
Hi, Owen.
Hey.
Well, bakers on here that know a lot. What's the cool thing about working with dough like this for the beginners?
You can
Well, it's super easy and it's super pliable. It's not very it's very forgiving because it
That's
only
what I'm
has,
talking about. Like if you tear it up a little bit, you can always fix it, can't you?
yeah, you
It's like
can.
Play-Doh, but edible. Let me make it so you can actually see me.
There.
Point of view, you're a plate.
Back to the baking, I would also add that on the puff pastry dough, they're relatively inexpensive ingredients that you would have on hand. So if you
Meat gauge.
totally,
Why are
if,
the plates talking to me?
if you totally mess it up, you can easily start all over again without wasting
If you're
$5
worried about
ingredients.
and also if you're worried about messing it up, you could always buy puff paste.
I would challenge everybody to try this recipe. It's easy. Would you suggest, as you're working with part of the dough, to keep the other dough in the refrigerator so that it stays cold to work with?
If you wanted to, another thing you could do is make the dough a couple hours ahead and let it sit for an hour or two. That works really well. Something else I kind of would recommend, because if you let it sit, it'll kind of firm up a little bit. But I'm just doing this a little bit more on the fly. You see how when you get them nice and warm, they're super pliable. It makes working with these apples so much easier. And like Pat was saying, the next recipe is so much easier than this one.
Tim, we have a question from Ian who wants to know if this would work with other bendable foods.
Yes.
So they're gauged now
I'm
that
eating
you're
the
done
lemons.
clamming dishes. You are unmuted.
I'm eating the remaining lemons.
Ask me to unmute you.
Here's what you would call a more perfect
Now, isn't that
wow.
pretty?
thing. So this is what I have. Some of them turned out really pretty. Some of them maybe not as much, but they're still pretty looking ish. Before I would put these in the oven, is I would take our sugary yummy concoction and just kind of drizzle it over the top. Just pop it in your hot box at 400 degrees until it starts to get golden brown. The beauty about the roast, you got that nice bottom, and if you look in the middle, it's all that sugary good stuff.
Oh.
So when you break it open,
Let me get a picture.
and you've got your cinnamon goodness, and then